What do you say?
Mishnah.
Yes. How are you? Are you okay?
So all the kids.
Moishe, where did you go?
When's Tolly back?
I went to Holland.
I think we went for 2 weeks and 5 days. I think.
Free holiday.
You drive?
Did I drive there? Yeah, I drove a long drive.
How many hours is it?
Right. We're starting today the Mishnah on the Flametes Amud Aleph. It's the sugya of Shemitah. It's one of the most interesting sugyas. Yes, very good, nice word, very pertinent. It's mamish. These are the halachas. Already Shemitah in some way has already started. Already said 30 days before Shemitah you can't do malacha to work. And there are many mefarshim that point out that those who can't keep Shemitah technically because they live in Chutz La'aretz, if they learn the halachas of Shemitah, it's as if they keep it. Mine in Shemitah it's at Har Sinai. Many folks will say, why is Shemitah mentioned by Har Sinai? Har Sinai, the Har Sinai is a symbol of the place we learn Torah. If you can't keep Shemitah, at least learn the halachas of Shemitah. And there are many halachas here, and that we should be zeichet to get some sort of appreciation, understanding. What's clarity? Says the Mishnah. If a person buys on Shemitah a lulav from his friend. Now, a few akdamas. The halacha is that in the year of Shemitah, besides for not being allowed to plow, plant, and all the other halachas, there's special kedusha to the fruit of Shemitah. One of the halachas is le'ochla v'lo l'scheva. You're allowed to eat it, not allowed to make a business out of it. That does not mean you're not allowed to sell Shemitah fruit. It means you're not allowed to make a business out of it. You're allowed to make a profit, you're allowed to make a profit. But as long as you don't make it, and you mustn't sell it to the marketplace, you mustn't sell large quantities, you mustn't use guarded fruit. That means if, for example, I'm walking through your orchard with oranges, and I see that the oranges are free because it's hefka, and I pick 10 oranges. And I go home and I decide I don't need to 10 oranges, 2 will do for me. I'm allowed to go to home and say, would like to buy 8 oranges off me and I can sell it to him.
What about the farm?
The farmer is also allowed to collect enough for him to eat, not in a business way, just take a few and to sell, but not
so is he allowed to avoid people damaging his field? Especially today, you get a lot of people traveling from the orchard, let's say.
That's where they're very
Is he allowed to gather them and then put them there?
No, he's not.
No,
he's not allowed to gather more than what he would normally eat a few days.
I'm saying to put the hefker, he's charging for the work, not for the fruit. To cover his cost of the fuel the most.
Not to damage his property is allowed to make certain rules. To collect more than what a normal person is allowed to eat, no, he's not allowed to.
Gather it to make it easier for people.
And that is it's a very big sukkah. It depends how he gathers it. It depends if he's scared that people would damage the actual branches, if it's for the sake of the fruit. I don't want to get it's a solution. The main point over here I want to get to is like this: that there is a way to actually buy alba minim from a kosher yid without being any averos. If you know that it's a yid who does the mitzvahs correctly, there's nothing actually intrinsically wrong with buying alba minim. The problem over here, as Rashi tells us, we're talking about an am ha'oretz. We're talking about somebody who doesn't keep the mitzvahs properly. Since he doesn't keep the mitzvahs properly, we're concerned that by buying the alba minim from him, things will go wrong. So Rashi is disturbed. Would an Amoritz is not going to listen to us. An Amoritz is somebody who doesn't care to be medactic in halacha. So Rashi's bodda, look, lulav mechaber, buys a lulav from his friend. A friend always usually symbolizes is somebody on equal terms. He says, if the friend is a Talmud Chacham, then you're allowed to buy from him, there's no problem. If the friend is an Amoritz and the person buying is an Amoritz, he's also not going to listen. So obviously we're talking about a Talmud Chacham buying from an Amoritz. Says Rashi, how can you call him Chaber? Lulav mechaber, buys a lulav from his friend. He's not buying it from his friend, he's buying it from an Amoritz. So Rashi changes the Gilsa to Lekach Lulav mi'amoritz. Tesis, however, points out that there are many places where the word chaveva is used, even from a Talmud Chacham to Namaritz. But again, main point I want to get to is that the type of person who does the mitzvahs correctly is buying from Namaritz who does not do the mitzvahs correctly. And we're scared that he will do averos without a minimum. So what should we do? Now, the adasim and avovos is not a problem because they're not fruit trees, they're not shmita. Lulav the Gemara will discuss later. The Mishnah only discusses the problem of the esrog. So what do you do is like this. He has to insist that he gets the esrog as a present. Because you're not allowed to buy it on shmita. That means what happens is, as Rashi explains, you say, I'll pay you extra on the lulav if you give me the esrog for free. Nowadays, you can say to somebody, I'll pay you for the bags, carrot bags, if you give me the fruit for free. Here, it says, you buy the lulav, you pay extra for it, but you get esrog for free. The Gemara straight away says, what happens if the person refuses? So what happens is, you swallow up. That means what happens is, what? You make the lulav more expensive. Okay. That means there's really two suggestions. One is you say to him, just give me the esrog as a present. Another option is that you just make the lulav more expensive. But those two suggestions circumvent the problem of buying an esrog from Namaritz. The Gemara. Why can't you give him the money and buy an esrog normally? Says the Gemara, if you we do not give money of shmita fruit to Namaritz. The halacha is that shvius tefesses domer. The kedusha of shmita is transferred onto the money. So let's say I go into David's orchard, take 10 oranges. I don't eat all 10, so I keep 2 for myself. I eat 2 and sell 8 for Chaim. Now, what happens is the money which he pays me has the same equal kedusha to the actual fruit of shmita. Now, what's the halachos of the fruit of shmita? Is that it has to be used le'ochro, to be eaten, and not l'schayru, and not for business. And more than that is when it comes to the time of biur, that means, we mentioned this before, when there are no more oranges left in the country, the halacha is you have to take all the oranges out of your house and put them in the fields to be mafkir. If the money of the oranges is now in Chaim's pocket, what's going to happen is he will not do biur on that money because he will not remember or not care about the fact. What will he do with the money? He may invest it. So therefore, we do not give money to Namaritz, which is going to have kedusha shvis. So if you go to the street of Eretz and you see an Amoritz selling oranges, you cannot pay him. Because if you pay him, the kedusha of the oranges is transferred onto the money. And with the money, he will not be mekayim the mitzvah of biur. Instead, what will he do with it? And invest it and keep the money for many years, which he's not allowed to do because he has to. What should he do with the money? What should he do with the money of Shemitah? Buy other food which you eat. And he's not going to do that. Now, if you give him a very, very small amount of money, that's okay. But if a large sum of money, that's a problem.
The oranges have
yes, why not?
That means oranges and the money.
No, that's exugulate. I mean, once it goes on to the money, does the kedusha of the fruit go away? That's the more discussion. Because we're not concerned that he will invest it. We are sure that if he gets a small amount of money, he'll just buy with it food for the next meal or for the next day. Tesis, because a lot of halachas over here. Tesis says that the problem, that Rashi says that the problem is that he'll end up investing it. Says Tesis that's not true. The problem is even if he doesn't invest in it, and therefore he circumvents the problem of biur, there are a lot of halachas. You're not allowed to buy certain foods with certain things with money of shmita. Can you buy an animal, a tummy animal like a lamb? Can you buy a slave? Can you buy property? Can you buy a shirt? Can you buy shoes? No. Why can't you buy shoes? Let's say, for example, you pluck some oranges. I pay you for them, and then you buy a pair of shoes with that money. You've done an aveira because the money of the oranges, the oranges has kedusha shvis. They were transferred onto the money, so the money has to be used with kedusha shvita. So Tesis is disturbed that Rashi can only think of the problem that he might invest it And when it comes to this man bill, not get rid of it, says Tesis, there's actually many other problems long before Zman bill. And the main problem is he may use the money for things that he's not allowed to. Or for example, says Tesis, another thing he might do is he might buy fruit with them and then destroy them. And Allah is not allowed to destroy the fruit of Shemitah. And then Tesis says like this. This Tesis is the third to bottom of Tesis. I was looking at the Sefer Kuntres on Shemitah. And he starts off the halachas of Shemitah with this line of Tesis. If you've got to say it's a beautiful line of Tesis. Because again, Tesis Rashi says the problem of giving money to an amount is what? Invest it and he won't do bill, which means that when it comes to the oranges left, he won't use it up or keep it. Says Tesis, that's not true. There's many other problems. He might buy a pair of shoes, he might destroy it, he might waste it, he might all kinds of things. You don't need to come on to this. Says Tesis, look at the last line of the third to bottom Tesis. Vein mispah, there's no number. Ledinim to the dinim, but they assume and to the assume shesh appears shvius shtech the nigbaim kedusha shvius. The number of halachas of Shemitah fruit is innumerable. It is without number. There is no limit to the halachas of Shemitah fruit. For example, I'm talking about on Shabbos. If you eat an apple on Shemitah, what do you do with the core? You can't throw it in the bin. You have to eat it. You have to put it aside to the rots.
You should know.
You get special bins, which are not. Main thing is it doesn't become moldy.
You will get these caddies.
Right. As long as you don't ruin it, if that's potato peels or something horrible inside it, and you drop the apple core inside it, you ruin the apple core. You have to put it in a kind of caddy where you could still eat it. You can't put it stam in a caddy. It's got something. Bagging it and put it in the bin, would you then fish it out in the bin and eat it? Not so clear. No, you put it aside. You let it rot, yes. But this line of Tesis is very mispal dinim very sushas shvius. Okay, so again, let's go for brief. The halacha is the person of Shemitah is the ochlev l'nischayot, and therefore a person is not allowed to buy and sell fruit as a business. We do not give money to Namoritz. Why do we give money to Namoritz? Because we are concerned, according to Rashi, that he won't do bill. According to Tesis, he says there's a number of the problems they might do. And therefore, for example, if I don't buy from Namoritz, let's say I'm buying from a Talmud Chacham, can I buy an esrog? No. Yes, there's absolutely no problem. It's only from Namoritz that you can't buy. Says about the Tanya, we learned in the Baisa, in Moishe to make Perush Shvius Namoritz, you do not give an Amoritz more than 3 meals. Why 3 meals? On the Friday, every Amoritz needs to buy 3 meals for Shabbos. So therefore, when you give him the amount of money that he can only buy 3 meals, we do not suspect him of investing it. We believe that he'll just buy food straight away. Now, what happens if it's not a Friday? What happens if it's a Monday? Chazal decided not to differentiate. And therefore they said you can always give him enough money. So if let's say you walk in the markets of Eretz Yisrael, you see Namor selling oranges. Can you buy it from him? It depends how much money you're going to pay him. If you're going to give him more money, that 3 days, that 3 meals worth, not less than that, that's okay. That's all on condition that you don't suspect him of doing the idea of shmira. Once he's done the idea of guarding the food, there's got another problem. Okay, we'll come to it in a minute. So therefore, the Gemara says you can't give him more than 3 meals worth. Ve'mosa, if Chas V'Shalom a person did, let's say by mistake you gave an Amoritz money on Shemitah, what should you do? Yomi should say, the money which this person has, let's say, for example, I go up to a person, an Amoritz. I go to Amoritz and I paid him for fruit. I gave him more than 3 meals worth. So now he may invest it, he may not do B, or he may not buy with its shoes, which is no good. So I say the kedusha of that money should go into fruit which I have at home. And you eat it with kedusha shvius and stuff like that. What? Oh, very good. That's a very good question. Let's get the case clear. I go up to the Amoritz, right? We'll make this box of sisters the Amoritz. He's selling oranges on the side of the road. I go to him and I give him, let's say, £100, which is more than the amount of money you need for 3 meals. And I realize, oh, what have I done now? It's got kedusha shvius and he's not going to do bill. So what do? I go home to my fridge, open up the fridge and take out a huge basket of fruit. The kedusha, the £100 go on my food. Fake Tosfos, how does that work? The money is in his pocket. The kedusha, you have to ask him permission. So the Rishonim say it's very smachliks in the Gemara, later a different place altogether, where it works within Zochim, that the person is happy that he shouldn't have the favor of the kedusha of shmita on his money, and if you're doing him a favor by taking the kedusha away and putting it on his, even as Amoris, he still doesn't want to do avera stam.
If he's selling to 1,000 people in a day,
Right. That's a very, very good question. We'll come to that in a minute. But that point is like this. Chavas, let's get to his question clear first. We'll come to yours. So the halacha is that I could do it since Zochin in his Amoritz. He's still happy that the Shumli Kedusha on his money. Why do you want Kedusha on his money? He's much better. He does. It's not. It doesn't want that bills. So the money should go into mine. Alternatively, says Tesis, is a famous Tesis. Tesis says indeed the Kedusha is not transferred. And you gain nothing by doing it. But why do you do it? It's a punishment, it's a knas. Now here you were giving away money to Namoretz without being properly concerned. Now we're going to make £100 worth of your fruit, Kodesh, and you're going to have to treat him Kedusha with all the halachas of Shmitas. Therefore it's like a knas and not that. Now Teresavi asks a very interesting question, which zecher to hear people speaking about it. Interesting question like this. Again, why can't I buy an esrog on Shemitah? What are we talking about? We're not talking about the Talmud Chacham because there's nothing more. We're talking about buying an Amoritz. And what is the concern? What is the concern? Why can't I buy an esrog from Amoritz? We'll use the money. Rashi says either he will do bill or he'll buy shoes. And the Gemara tells us that halacha is only when you pay him how much?
3 meals.
More than 3 meals. How much is 3 meals? 3 meals of Shabbos. How much does 3 meals of Shabbos cost you? Anybody want to hazard a guess?
Too much.
I remember once somebody asked me this. It was really because he wanted to prove a point. I said £50. And he got all upset. So that's a very, very lot. He thought I meant £50 per meal. I meant £50 for all 3 meals. When I said I meant £50 for all meals, he said, oh, he thought 40 for all 3 meals. Therefore, weren't far off. But he first thought that meant 50 for each meal. No, passages we're talking about an individual. Individual, you could easily buy a nice Shabbos for one individual, £50 for it. In fact, this is an unbelievable question. How much does an esrog cost? He brings a Mishnah in Me'ilah that an esrog costs approximately a prut. So why can't I buy an esrog on Shemitah? How much am I going to pay him? Hey, no, you have to hear the Tesis tell us. I'm afraid to tell you. When you hear Tesis, if you go to a farm, it'll cost the same as a lemon. How much does a lemon cost? You probably buy 6 lemons for £1. No, if you go to Lidl, I'm sure you get 5 lemons for £1. So each lemon is 20 pence. 20 pence is a put. A put is about 20 pence. So why can't I buy an esrog from Namoritz? What could possibly go wrong? I give him 20 pence. That's not Moslem Shorish. So this answers Tesis. Let's read the words of Tesis inside. Second to bottom Tesis, Lamed Testament Valef. He says, Hossam, middle of the second line of that Tesis. Hossam esrog possum. When you want to eat an esrog, costs you a pruta. Aval hocha, kosher v'hoda librocha. You want a kosher esrog. You want a mehuda esrog librocha. Dom of your karim. It is very, very expensive.
Has it got those?
No, you're going to Namoritz who's selling a srog by the side of the road.
Right. So why would it have all these mud?
No, it has to be side of the road because you can't sell it to the marketplace in Schmidt. You're not allowed to sell Schmidt in the marketplace. It's just casually selling them.
Right.
But you're looking for a kosher moda esrog because you need it for sukkahs. So he's allowed to, he can obviously, he knows that you want a kosher moda esrog. So therefore he's going to charge you a very lot. Now, what did he want to prove? What? Oh. Yes, you look for. I'm talking about before the Cheshem. We're talking now about Mitzvah Adin. What did you want to prove? What do you want to suggest? What you want to prove from this thesis?
You shouldn't be spending too much on us.
No, it's the opposite way around. So, that what is the amount that an esrog should cost at the minimum?
Minimum of 3 Shabbos meals.
Very good, because if it costs less than 3 Shabbos meals, then the Mishnah won't say that you can't buy from Namoritz. The fact that the Mishnah says you mustn't buy from Namoritz, obviously the Mishnah held that the normal esrog that you're going to buy would be more than 3 meals. No, we said, how much is the normal 3 meals? I said 50 pounds. So you should spend at least 50 pounds on your esrog. If you're spending a lot less than 50 pounds, then there's something wrong. Because if you're spending a lot less than 50 pounds, you've got a kasha back on this Mishnah. What's the kasha on this Mishnah? Why does the Mishnah say don't buy an esrog for Namoretz? What's the problem? If I only spend, let's say, 10 pounds on an esrog, what's wrong buying an esrog for Namoretz? The worst comes to us, they're giving them 10 pounds. So the Mishnah said, the Gemara says clearly that you're allowed to spend 10 pounds. Okay. So now, let's just do three more lines. We'll come to Moishe's question. Moishe is asking that we said we don't give him too much money. Why? Because he will invest. He won't buy shoes. So we're allowed to give him up to 3 meals worth. 3 meals worth. But the problem is he might be selling to thousands of people, and if each person gives him 10 pounds, he's definitely going to invest it.
Is that your worry?
That's his problem, my problem.
No, but the question is, Chazal said like this. That we don't want you to start giving money to Namoretz, which we know that he can't possibly use. Oh, so the Gemara carries on. He buys from a hefker. If you buy from a guarded fruit, even half an issa is us. The way Rashi explains it is Rashi explains that the Gemara was concerned exactly what Moishe was asking, and the Gemara was understanding. We're talking about two kinds of people selling. There are some people that what happens is they happen to have gone through a field, picked up a few hefker fruit, and all he's selling you is all he's got to sell is this one bag of carrots, one bag of oranges. That's all he's got to sell. So in such a case, there's nothing to be worried about, because what happened was this hungry man, he went to an orchard, took some oranges, selling them, and now he's going to buy himself supper. We're not talking about a business, but when you know that he bought it from a business, that means he's guarded the field, collected tens of thousands of fruit, and he's selling you, says Rashi, only 10 oranges. It's a trick, says Rashi. He's tricking you. Why isn't he selling you 10 oranges? Because he wants to pretend that that's all he's selling and that you're giving him money and he's only going to buy supper. But really, he's got behind his back loads more. So when he's guarded the fruit, you should know that when he sells you the fruit, what he's really intending to do is actually invest the money and not to buy a meal and keep it for a long time.
Even if he only sells a few, if 3 times he gets enough money for 3 meals, he still has money for 9 meals.
No, we understand that he's just buying once, one off. He's got like a hefker. He collected from hefker a few fruit, and he's.
Let's say the first rank sells more for 3 meals. So.
I understand that we're talking about when you're buying all off in one go. He's got like an esek. He managed to find an esek and selling it to them. That means we're talking about a situation where he's only buying one. He's only selling one set, not more than once. Now, here comes up a very, very big machlokas, huge. I mean, this machlokas is perhaps the biggest machlokas in the Shmita. If you think very carefully what Rashi has told us a huge kula. I know it's a bit of thought, but it's mamish. This is from the Yesodus of the Shmita. Rashi says like this: that let's read the words of the Gemara again. If you're buying from this Amoritz who guarded the fruit, even if a tiny amount, it is also. Why is it also, says Rashi? Because he's really selling to not just to you, he's selling to other people. And really, he's not buying just 3 meals, but really what he's intending to do is what? Is invest it, and then you're going to be able to be according to Tesis, all the other problems. Says Tesis, I don't understand what Rashi's even talking about. If the fruit were guarded, then we have another whole load of issues. One of the halachas is that none of the fruit of Shmita are allowed to be guarded. Everything has to be hefker. And Tesis' Shitta is that once you guard the fruit, it is forbidden to be eaten forever and ever. Never mind, even if you mafkir it afterwards. If I lock the gate in my garden and there's an orange tree growing there, and later I mafkir it, it doesn't make a difference. You've now made them also to be eaten forever. What?
In this case. But the esrog is not, you're not eating it.
Yeah, I don't know. I will be also for it. Once you can't eat it, you can't use it for shaking. You can't use. So I don't know if you get. It's a long taste. It's my bed's one more. And Teresa says, by me, it's about 15 lines from the top. The pairs when I'm a shumo asurin, they're also to be eaten. And Moishe says that Rashi himself writes in Yomi that his Rebbes told him that fruit of Shemitah, which have been guarded, are also to be eaten. Rashi says, my Rebbes told me such a thing. And Rashi says, I don't agree. Because who in the world ever said such a thing? And Rashi argues vehemently, and he says there's no such thing, and you're all allowed to eat. And this makes a huge machlokes. which is not being clearly defined in halacha. The question is, fruit which have been guarded, are you allowed to eat them or not? Again, Rashi says it's permitted, and therefore the whole problem is because it's tricking you that he's going to sell to you and to a whole load of people, and then he's going to invest the money. So this is no, if it's been guarded, you can't buy anything from him. The whole thing's forbidden. The Maisa, we are all machmir. We do not eat food that have been guarded. So therefore, if you on Shemitah buy an avocado and it says it comes from Israel, you cannot eat it because of this Sabinu Tam. Cannot eat because of this Sabinu Tam. Because the 99% chance is that it came from a field which was guarded, right? And it got shipped to Lidl or Tesco, wherever you buy from. And it was guarded. And according to Tosfos, any food that was guarded in the Shemitah makes no difference. What happened to it afterwards? It became awesome. Once it's guarded, it became awesome. Oh, that's a good shaila. What happens if a food doesn't say? Halacha is that it says, okay, we're not mechuyev to be choishesh that a food comes from Eretz Yisrael. He says, it's only if you know.
Rabbi not do take
Trumas Rices, they're able to watch Shemitah. Yes.
Why do you say you assume that 9% being Mishma?
Because if it's Hefker, how did they get to Lidl? Tesco. If we're doing Hefker, what usually happens is that it goes into Oitza Basin, which they don't allow it to be taken out of it. So.
You only talk about chutzpah.
So chutzpah, yeah, you have to about buying. But this the time says, maybe when the time this 5 words of Tosfos changes the whole matzah of now itself because it makes a huge halacha. And it's fascinating. The Rashi Tosfos argue about such a basic question: a fruit of Shemitah has been guarded. They also the Rishonim discuss.
The question is why that's right, man. Shemitah here in Chutzpah is so expensive.
Why they're so expensive? Okay, we'll come to it. That was all good. The question: I feel with Chatz Issa also. They all ask, what's Chatzi Issa? Chatzi Issa is half an Issa. What happens if it's less? What happens if it's a Mashu? That's a Machloikus in the Rishonim. What happens if it's not even a Chatzi Issa, if it's even less than that? Okay. Mosiv of Sheshus. So Sheshus asks a question. So basically, how many halachas of Shemitah we've learned? We've learned Biur, we've learned the Issa buying clothes, we've learned the halacha of 3 meals, the knas that if you by mistake give money. This story, I know it's gone round, but I spoke to the person that happened to. He just told me, please don't repeat that. It's happened to him. A person had a cleaner for many years. I'm sure you heard the story. And what happened was, the cleaner said she's leaving. So his wife looked for a gift to give her. Couldn't think of a single gift. What did he give her? She found some oranges on the table. She gave it to her. And what happened was, the husband came home. She said to him, it's Peil Shemitah. And what happened was he decided, he called her up, you have to get it back because she was taking back to Poland. She was a Polish cleaner. And he was not in Paris of Shemitah, Lechatchila would not allow them to be taken out of it. So he tried to track this. She was taking a flight out of the country. He took a taxi to Ben Gurion Airport. He got onto the thing. He said she was already boarded. He begged and pleaded with them. Very strong-minded personality. They let him onto the flight. He came onto the flight. The cleaner saw him. She went pale. She emptied out her purse. Said, here's the jewelry that I've taken off you. She thought when she saw him tracking it down, they hadn't even noticed that she had stolen the jewelry. When she saw him tracking it down, she was sure that he had come to track down the jewelry. I spoke to the person that happened to. He didn't like it, except because he's a wealthish person, lives in Yerushalayim. He used to live quite close to me, and the story. And I went to ask him, is it true? He said, yes, that was exactly how the story went. What? I've seen it, I'm sure, in different places.
The story is true.
The story is true. Yes. It's ages story. Nice, okay. Most of our sheshes. Are you only allowed to buy, give him 3 sulas worth, the suloi, umini? Yes, umini. But what's interesting is I had a piece of jewelry missing. We were 99% sure the cleaner took it and found it like 2 years later, hidden some complicated.
I sacked the cleaner because she stole 50 pence over the door hanger. That's what she stole.
But you're sure that she stole it? How do you know?
My wife saw it in her handbag. 50 pence is what it's worth.
You should know, because there's a chayshush.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Sometimes a chayshush that things, a chayshush there, but it's not. I know, more often, for me, I was quite upset. I didn't say a word. I was sure that she had taken it. We couldn't prove it and everything else. Like 2 years later, we found it, maybe underneath the car. I don't know. Okay, now there's a list of plants which I had to look in the article to get the translation. And even with the translation, I do not know what they are. Pigim is ru, R-U-E. Vayarvuzin is koram. Vashitim is asparagus. Vachalagregus is puzzling. Kuspa is coriander, Shibahovim, coriander in the mountains, Kalpas is cress, celery, Shvinovis, Garga, Shalefa, and the rockets from the meadow, Pturuna Maisa, all parts from the Maisa. Any vegetable which grows in the wild is part from the Maisa. Why is it part from the Maisa? Because the Pasuk says we should give it to the Levi. He's got no portion of its soul. Never, he's got nothing to give it to him. But Hefker, he's got as much right to it as you have. When you koch and you're allowed to buy as much as you want from any person in Shvis, because nobody ever guards it. So you see that you have to pay how much it costs. No limit. Says, well, no. When Moishe you asked the question, the answer is mon means sustenance. Only the amount he needs for sustenance. That means even the hefker items, you're only allowed to buy from them the amount that is hefker. It says, well, my mashbadam how do you know it means food? What happened was when Meshach were taken to Nebuchadnezzar's palace, the king's servant gave them meat, and they said, we can't eat it. Why can't we eat it? Because it's treif. The servant of the king said to them that if you don't eat it, you will look pale, and then the king will have my head chopped off, he says. For the fact that I'm not looking after his servants properly, it's my job to feed you properly. So they said to him, give us seeds, and let's see what happens to them. To us. And he fed them only seeds. He fed them food, and after 2-3 years, when they came to look at them, they would look the healthiest and the strongest of them all. Okay. Says the Gemara, okay, so we settled the less because you can't buy an Esther because it's time always, and we can't give him too much money. Anymore. Lulav as well. Later we won't discuss why Lulav has a shmita if it's not a fruit. But at this stage we understood that Lulav is a problem. Sukkot always comes 2 weeks after Rosh Hashanah. And Shemitah starts in Rosh Hashanah. When you go this year to the Abba Minimum shop, which Abba Minimum are you getting? Are you getting the year of Shemitah or the year of Sukkot?
Previous year.
Always getting the previous year. Come out always. It's very rare that you'll be able to. So next year's going to the problem. Next year's going to the problem, not this. And the Gemara says that we're talking about over here, where it's the first Sukkot after Rosh Hashanah, means this year, and the Esrog is of Shemitah. The Lulav is not. Now, why would that be that the same Moishe of Abba Minim will be selling you an Esrog of Shemitah this year and a Lulav of last year?
When not any harvest, that's what goes. Changes quick.
You all say very close, but the exact point is like this: that by an Esrog it goes after the time of the plucking, and the plucking could have happened with Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot. He harvested the harvesting with Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot. By Lulav, it goes according to the time of budding, when it became into when it blossomed. After the blossom comes to a bud. And that certainly couldn't have happened between Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot, because if that happened between Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot, you won't have a Lulav. So therefore, we're talking about where the Esrog was, now we're going to discuss the very big question. By fruit, do you go after the harvesting or do you go after the budding? That's a very big question. Says the Gemara, Lulav, we talk about the 6th according to the 7th. By Esrog, the same story, it should be the 6th coming into the 7th. As Moses says, Esrog goes after the harvesting, not after the budding, and therefore it is the 7th year. We will see that both hold that regarding Shemitah, regarding an Esrog, we go after the budding, not after the harvesting. It's that. And Esrog is similar to a tree in 3 ways, 3 halachas, and to vegetables in 1 halacha. And Moishe explains, is comparable to a tree in 3 ways. Regarding the halachas of Ola apply to a tree, not to vegetables, and they apply to a srogim. And they apply the halacha that on the 4th year, what do you do with your fruit? You take it to Yerushalayim and eat it, or you redeem it and you take the money to Yerushalayim. That applies to trees, not vegetables, and also to a srogim. Or the shvis, and that you go after the budding by Shemitah to make it a Shemitah fruit, and so too to make it that regarding Shemitah, it goes after the budding by Esrog. It's similar to a vegetable in one way. Daf mem omud aleph, top of the line. that it goes according to the time of the harvesting. The Meiser of Esrog goes according to the harvesting. That means the Shemitah Kedusha goes according to the budding. The Meiser goes according to the harvesting. It goes after the tree after every single matter. Every single matter, not just about Shemitah, but also about Meiser. And it says more, who Domakai, Tanya, the Tanya of Yosef of Tulmas, Hey, Lishum Chamishas, the Canaan, Eseg Achelekita le Meiser. The Eseg goes after the Kita for Meiser. But we say in the Nimna Baruch being the Meiser and the Shviz, rather both for Meiser and for Shemitah goes after harvesting. And we'll ask this question, Shviz Ma'adocha Shmei, nobody mentioned Shemitah that the Chachamim should argue. And the Chachamim say no, for Shemitah as well it goes after the Kita, but nobody discussed Shemitah till now. Eseg Achelekita le Meiser v'Achachanot le Shviz. Eseg goes after the Kita for Meiser and budding for Shviz. So I'm saying in the Baruch Eseg goes to the Kita bein the Meiser and the Shviz. The Eseg goes after harvesting bein the Meiser bein the Shviz. There's a few things we must explain over here. First of all, regarding the Esrog, we have three different opinions. We have the Chachamim of Usha that they say by an Esrog it always goes after harvesting, bein for the halachas of Shemitah, bein for the halachas of Meiser. We have the halacha of Abelezer that says that Esrog goes after budding, bein the Shemitah, bein the Meiser. We have Gamliel and the Yosef of Tulmus that they say that regarding harvesting, regarding Meiser, it goes after harvesting, and regarding Shemitah, it goes after budding. So there's three different shittas. What is the status of the Esrog, how it's decided? Rashi points out that when we talk about Meiser, there are two halachic significances to know which year. The halacha is that every year of Shemitah, there's different Meisers. There's Meiser Rishon and Meiser Sheni for the year 1, 2, 4, and 5. And Meiser Rishon and Meiser Oni for year 3 and 6, and for Shemitah there's none of the Meisers. So knowing which year has ramifications, which Meiser you should be taking. Furthermore, Rashi points out, the halacha is that even let's say, for example, it's to say the second, the first, and the second, and there's no difference between which Meisers you do. There's still a difference. The halacha is we don't take Meiser from 1 year's produce to another year's produce. But the Chodesh HaYoshon is also. So therefore, again, you need to know which year it is in order to make sure that you've got it right. So therefore, you need to know, and a very big discussion of here is, why is it regarding Esrog that it should change from everything else? Why should it be any different? All fruit trees, they go after which? The plucking or the budding? Anybody know? Budding. All fruit trees go after budding. So why do what's the discussion over here? Why should Esrog be any different? So Rashi brings a whole Avichos, this premise is a whole Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, which we're going to learn soon, where the Gemara basically tells us that we learn from Dogon the Yitzhak. That means like this, that by going Yekev, the Torah says that it always goes after the budding. But they survive with the water that comes from the rain. Vegetables, you need to water them further. And the Esrog is similar in nature to the vegetables. Just like vegetables, you need to add water for them to live. If you're growing vegetables, you cannot rely on rain. But when you're growing grapes, you can. Esrogim are similar to the vegetables in the sense that they need al kol mayim, not al roiv mayim. They need extra water. Since they need extra water, Chazal gave us certain halachas that should be like a vegetable. So that's why it's got a vegetable. So let's go very briefly. You cannot buy an Esrog from Namaos because you can't give him the money. What are you going to do about the lulav? The lulav is not a problem. Why? Because the lulav is from the 6th year. Why is the Esrog from the 7th and the Esrog from and the lulav from the 6th? Because the Esrog goes after the harvesting. The lulav goes after the budding. And therefore, when it comes to the first sukkahs, but when it will be the next sukkahs after Shemitah, it will be the opposite around. Your Esrog, you'll be okay. Your lulav, you'll be no good. And then you're going to have to ask him to give you the lulav for free. Okay, very good. We'll stop here. We're up to Talmud the lulav. We're up to 10 lines. A lot of halachas, but it's a very simplistic Shmita.